Hi, I'm Mike Haduck, and today I'm going to do a review on this quikrete Type S and Type N mortar. I'm going to talk about what the differences are, how they came up with this stuff. I'm going to mix the stuff up. I'm going to show you how I use it, what I use it for. I'm going to try to explain a lot about it. So first we're going to look at the package and then go from there. So first let's look at what the bag says. It says Mason Mix Type S mortar. And we get down here, Type S again. This says commercial grade. Designed for use in structural masonry applications, improved workability, consistent pre-blended mix, used for block, brick, and stone construction and tuck pointing. And it exceeds the performance requirements of ASTM C270. That's the American Standard of Testing of Materials. And ASTM C1714 for Type S mortar. I don't listen to that. I mix my own mixes, but this is a pre-mix, and I'm going to show you how I use it. Now let's look at the end mortar. Now, this is the mortar mix. It said just add water, just like the other one. Used for construction and repair of brick, block, and stone. Barbecues, planters, tuck pointing, walls, pillars. Exceeds the performance requirements of ASTM C270, American Standard for Testing Materials. C stands for like masonry products. And here they hide it right down here. Type N mortar. So I'm going to talk about it and show you what the differences are. So I'm going to try to simplify this so you know what you're working with. At one time, before the 1900s, the only thing out there was lime, which now they call mortar. All it is lime. So they made lime. And then when they were building the castles and building the cathedrals, they would mix sand like this with the lime, and they'd mix it up like this. And that would be their lime mix. Now I did a video on Conway Castle where they were restoring it, and it talks all about using lime. What happened around 1900 was they developed Portland. Now what's the difference between lime and Portland? Lime is what they made the cathedrals and castles and the old churches and everything out of. But Portland is a concrete. That's what they made the highways, the swimming pools, the sidewalks. Before Portland, you never see sidewalks. Everything was cobblestone or stone, because mortar's not strong enough to do it. So as they were going on and developing these products, they said to themselves, well, let me see, lime doesn't work for sidewalks, and it's not strong enough to go high in buildings. What are we going to do? Oh, I know what we're going to do. We are going to get some Portland like this, and we're going to add Portland to it. Add Portland to the lime mix. That's going to make it stronger. It's stronger for plaster. It's stronger for this. Now you go over there to England and a lot of places, they're still using the lime. Around here you can't even buy it. But that's what they did. So I hope you, now that you understand that, let me show you where they got the S and N mortar from. Well, let me try to simplify this. I don't know who came up with this idea. God bless them, but I don't agree with it. I think it's ridiculous. Someone got the word Mason work, and they went to every second letter. Type N, Type S, Type N, Type O, Type K. I don't know what they were spoken that day. But Type N, M, is 100% Portland, which you don't even need that. You just buy a bag of Portland. Type S is 67% Portland and 33% lime. Type N is 50% Portland and 50% lime. Type O is 33% Portland and 67% lime, and a bag of K is 100% lime. They don't even need that either. We can't even buy lime around here. Now when they came up with this and the premixes, they added sand to it. Now the question is, how much sand did they put in there? So now we got a good idea what the difference is between S mortar and N mortar. Now back in the day, I started in the 60s. My dad was doing it since the 40s. And there was no such thing as S mortar or N mortar. You'd bring your own sand on the job, you'd bring your own Portland on the job and your own mortar, and you'd mix it. Our mix for blocks and bricks was always 4 buckets of sand, to make it simple, 2 buckets of mortar, and half a bucket of Portland. Now that's hard, but our weather is harsh. And why is that? Because what works in Pennsylvania doesn't work in Florida. What works in Florida doesn't work in Alaska. What works in Alaska doesn't work in Southern California. It's all different, and all the masons would make their own mixes accordingly. When I went to Florida, they'd have different mixes, usually a lot more weaker with a lot more sand for expansion reasons. Up here, we get the snow and the ice. It kills it, so you got to know what you're doing. Now, I love the product, though. I use it. And anymore, instead of bringing the sand and bringing the cement and bringing the Portland, it's easier to just go buy the bag and use it. Now, they say commercial grade, and this one don't say anything. I just think it's a bigger bag. I can't see any other reason. So now what I want to do is I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to keep explaining it to you as I go and how I use it. Now I'm going to do a little demonstration. This is type S, and it says used for block, brick, and stone construction and tuck pointing, which is patching up brick and such. Then this one says barbecues, walls, planters, pillars, tuck pointing and mortar joints, which means pointing up bricks and stuff. Same thing as this one. Now what's the difference? This one has just a little bit more Portland in it. This one is just a bit stronger. Now, am I worried as a professional mason whether I use this or this for tuck pointing? Nope. Am I worried if I use this or this for blocks or brick? No. If I think this is a little weak for what I'm doing when it's close to the ground, I just might throw a little Portland in it. And I'll explain as I go. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get a little pan, and I'm going to get some of this end mortar right here, just like that. Put it over here. And some of this S mortar. Same company, maybe a little different color. You see the little parts in it right here? That means it's starting to get a little hard. When you buy these packages, feel them and make sure that they're soft. Then what I do is I just get a little water, get it with my sponge, and mix it up until I get it to where I want it. Now if I'm doing stucco work, or I'm doing plastering, I want it softer. So let's make this one soft, like this. See? That's it. And this one over here, let's mix this up too. Now I tell you what I do not use any of these products for is fixing anything with concrete. Anything with concrete, that's a whole different idea. This is for bricks and blocks and things of that sort. So now I have a consistency, you see? Now let's say right here, I'm going to use this for plaster. So let's say I soften this up right here, and when you do plaster, of course you want it a little softer. So when you're going to do plaster, you just make sure your surface is wet or stucco. You just get it, and you plaster it on. You see that? Here's the trick. You go like this, and you turn it upside down, it sticks to the trowel. If you don't do that, and you turn it, falls off the trowel. You go like that, you see? Then it sticks to the trowel. You go like this, it sticks to the trowel. Then you can move your trowel around and plaster with it. But I got a whole playlist on stucco jobs. Now let's say I want to lay brick with it. Well, in brickwork or block work, I might want it a little stiffer. So if I want it a little stiffer, I just get a little more stuff and I add it to it, and I make it a little stiffer. Then you can feel it after a while. If it's too stiff, it won't stick to the trowel, just a little bit. So okay, now that's a little bit too hard. See, we go like this. Down, pick it up. There. Then you lay your brick like that. You scrape it, just like that. And you lay your brick, just like that. That's what that would be for. And then, you know, you could use your tool or whatever you want to figure it out. But that's what it is. Now, can I mix these two together? I've done it a lot of times. It don't bother me. Now, when you're doing stonework, you're laying a stone, you want it stiff like this. You could use your hand. I've been doing this for 50 years. I still use my hands. You put it on top. See? You could even do it with your hands, just like that. See it? Put everything what you want. And if you want to clean it up, you could wring your sponge out really good. Just go over the sides. That'll clean it. You see that? So these are all just basic tricks. But a lot of people say you can't use it for stone. But if you go to the Indiana Limestone Handbook, page 22, and read it, and it says what they use. And what they basically use is this. They use the end mortar. Now if I want to strengthen this mix up, I just might add a little bit of Portland. Like I said, I've been doing this 50 years, and you could just look at it and know if it's strong enough for what you want. So that's the basics of it, you see? So it's about an hour and 20 minutes later. You see how hard that got? Now you could still use this if I wanted to, you know, get behind a brick and get in there. See? It's a waiting game. All this stuff is a waiting game. Now you could get in there with the dry stuff. I have videos on that. And pack it in. That'll still work because it's still wet underneath. So you gotta, it's a time thing. You got to learn how to use it when it's the right time. This could be still work. See it? An hour and a half later. So what you got to do is you got to go over in the corner of the building and practice. Now this is a little stiff. An hour and a half later, I'd probably just throw it away. You could make it soup it up a little bit and throw it behind a wall or something. But for the most part, I only mix what I'm going to use within about an hour. Then if I mix more, I mix more. And that's about all I'm going to say about this. So far, I showed you how I use it. I put the product in, I wet it up, I mix it up. If it's too hard, I add a little more water. If it got too soft, I add a little more of the product. I use it for an hour, hour and a half at the most, and then I'll mix a new batch. I only mix what I need. Now the N and S mortar to me is almost the same thing. If I wanted to use this doing block work or something, I might add a little bit more Portland to it for my area. In my area we use less sand and more mortar and more cement. In other areas you go to Florida, they use less because of the weather. Our weather, the rain comes down, the snow comes down, it goes against the building, all the lime and all the mortar falls out. If it's flat on the ground like concrete, or if it's flat on the ground like stone patios, I don't use it in my area. But if you go down past Philly, down south, you can get away with it. See, everything's different in the area. So now you're going to ask me, well, Mike, how did they come out with N and S, and why did they start that? Well, like I said, in the old days, everybody did their own mix. They brought their own lime, their own Portland, and their own sand, and they mixed it up. They came out with a new idea. Instead of bringing the sand and the lime and the cement, they pre-package it. Now you got to do is add the water. It's like a pancake mix, and it is good. I do like the products. I do use the products. It saves me some time. I always keep a couple bags in the garage in case I need them. Now, how did they come up with all this SMN? Well, in my mind and the way I think, in my opinion, at one time we used to have a paper boy. Now he's a delivery specialist. Then we used to have to go to the junkyard. Now it's a salvage yard. Then we used to have the garbage man. Now he's a sanitation engineer. Then we used to have concrete and block, and we used to have cinder block, and now it's CMUs. And now when you mix your lime together, it's type S, it's type N, But it's the same stuff. You know, it's just like a 67 Chevy. You get a 67 Chevy with a carburetor and distributor. Anybody could get a part anywhere. Anybody could use this for almost anything. But I always say it's up and down. It's brick walls up and down. I don't use it on the flat. Never use it on the flat. Inside the house, you could use it in the flat, sometimes under the porch, but not in my area. Now, a lot of guys, especially the ones who do restoration, don't want to hear that using this for joints over old lime. But if you go to the Indiana Limestone Institute, the handbook, it tells you 1 part Portland, 1 part lime, and 6 parts sand. And it goes right around with that same thing, the ASTM C270 or whatever it is. But they don't want to hear that. You know, they're inbred it, and you got to use this and you got to use that. I've been in countries where they used adobe and they plastered over the adobe and it worked just as good, but they don't have the freezing temperatures we have. Now, in the old days, most people use nothing but mortar. Why is it? Because it's flexible, it breathes a little bit, some say it heals itself, lime. In my area, though, the water gets in there, boom, it falls apart. That's why I add Portland, and in my opinion, I think that's why they did it. Mortar's more flexible. Portland's more rigid. So if you see the modern day jobs where they're only building walls this thick, every 20 feet they have an expansion joint. But those old castles and the old brick castles over in Europe, there's no expansion joints. Great Wall of China, there's no expansion joints, mostly because they use lime. There's a lot to know about it. It all comes from experience. And from my experience, that's why I'm giving you this opinion. Now, if you want to learn more about lime and Portland, I have a video out called Lime or Portland? What should I use? And I explain it right from the old days right up until now. If you don't get it after that, I can't help you. I also have videos out repointing brickwork, block work, stone veneer, foundation repair. And then I had videos where I went to Europe to see what they used. I went into Egypt. It's on the Great Wall of China, Monte Picchu. I went around all these countries and seen what they use. And it's pretty much the same all over the world. The countries with tropical and that use a lot of lime. The northern countries use more Portland. So I look at it like this. This is a good standard product for basic masonry patches, stucco, or whatever you want to use it for. I just don't put it on the ground for a patio or a sidewalk or nothing like that. This is for like up and down. Now, my dad, he's been doing it since the 1940s, and I've been doing it since the late 60s. And all the other masons I know pretty much agree with the same process as I do. So I hope you enjoyed it. All my videos are food for thought. I'm Mike Haduck. I'll see you next video.